There were peace talks for Russia's war in Ukraine today, peace talks in London, but they were thrown into disarray by us, by our government, when the American Secretary of State pulled out of these talks at the last minute, just hours after Trump's State Department said that Marco Rubio would be there for the talks. Secretary Rubio canceled. Then Vice President J.D. Vance announced his own version of a supposed peace plan for Ukraine. The J.D. Vance peace plan for Ukraine appears to consist entirely of Russia getting everything it wants, including all the Ukrainian territory it has invaded and occupied by force in this war. When Ukraine's president said in response, that might not work for us, Donald Trump went on a rant against Ukraine's president online. Today's London talks were supposed to be attended not just by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, but also by the other actor who plays the role of Secretary of State for some reason in this administration. That would, of course, be Trump's real estate friend, Steve Witkoff, seen here bumbling through a meeting in Paris last week, seriously, at this meeting, telling French officials how much their country's 18th century presidential palace looks just like Donald Trump's house in Florida. They literally laughed in his face. Even some of the people on his own side of the table laughed in his face. Mr. Witkoff did not laugh. He did not appear to get the joke, nor did he appear to get the fact that he was it. But nevertheless, Mr. Witkoff was supposed to be there at those London talks today, along with Marco Rubio. When Marco Rubio pulled out, Steve Witkoff also pulled out. Where is Steve Witkoff today instead? He is getting ready, once again, to fly to Moscow for yet another personal man-to-man meeting with Vladimir Putin. This will be Steve Witkoff's fourth in-person visit with Vladimir Putin in Russia. Why would any individual real estate friend of the US president need to have 4 hours-long, lengthy solo meetings in Russia with Vladimir Putin? That remains unexplained. President Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, in one of his first interviews since President Biden left office, says that from a national security perspective, in his estimation, Trump's first 100 days in office have been a, quote, unadulterated disaster. He says, quote, President Trump and his team have gone at the core American advantages in the world and systematically tried to dismantle them. Across all of the major dimensions of the things that have been America's major advantages, in less than 100 days, President Trump has put them all at risk. He says, quote, this is about the core foundations of American power and purpose in the world. And President Trump's effort, essentially, to knock them out. Joining us now is Jake Sullivan, former National Security Advisor to President Biden. Mr. Sullivan, I really appreciate you being here. I know you haven't done many interviews, and I really appreciate you being here tonight for this one.
Well, thanks a lot for having me, Rachel.
I'm struck by the stark nature of what you said when you say that President Trump is dismantling America's core advantages in the world. The things that have been our major advantages, the things that make us the power that we are. You describe him as systematically dismantling those things. What are those advantages, and do you see his work against them as being irrevocable?
Well, Rachel, I wouldn't say this. I'm not a person who usually speaks in hyperbole. I say it because I genuinely believe it. You ask, what are those advantages? And there are a few. It begins with America's unique system of alliances. No other power in the world has the strong, capable allies the United States has enjoyed for decades, and Donald Trump is intent on busting up those alliances. It's our unique capacity to attract talent from around the world. We can count on the talent of 7 billion people. China can only count on the talent of 1 billion people. But Donald Trump is casting doubt on whether we will be a welcoming place for students and researchers and people who want to come here to start companies. It's about a unique system of scientific research and innovation where the government, the private sector, and yes, research universities all come together to invent some of the most groundbreaking things of the past century. And yet he's going after basic research funding at NIH. and he's going after major universities. And finally, it's about our unique capital markets and our currency. And you saw when he did his quote-unquote Liberation Day that the world started to question whether America could really be relied upon for its capital markets and for the dollar. And underpinning all of that, of course, is our unique constitutional system underpinned by the rule of law, which, as you have quite articulately said, he's put under threat in various ways. These are the things that are distinctively American. And in less than 100 days, President Trump has gone after all of them. I don't believe anything is ever irrevocable because I believe in the capacity of the American people to reinvent and regenerate. But the damage he has done so far is significant, and it appears that there's probably more to come.
If we lose those advantages, which you just, I think, very eloquently and succinctly described, if you take those things away from America, what kind of country are we? Is there another country in the world that has any of the other characteristics that we have as a country, but not those advantages? Is there a country in the world that you think Trump is modeling us on or trying to make us more like?
Well, I mean, it certainly is taking us in the direction of a more authoritarian, more normal, more brutal great power. And that starts to look more like a China or a Russia. I mean, if you're sitting in Beijing right now and you're looking at what's happening in the United States, you're saying, we've spent a long time worried about these areas where the United States had a distinct advantage over us. We don't have the allies the U.S. had. Now it appears the American president's handing them away. We can't attract talent the way the United States does. Now France is going out and saying, hey, come to France because you're scared to go to the United States. We don't have that uniquely American innovation ecosystem, and yet the president of the United States is going at the basic research foundations and the institutions of higher learning that have set America apart. Amazing. So there is a kind of remarkable way in which our competitors and adversaries have got to be looking at this and saying, what the heck is going on? And we can't believe our luck.
When it comes to the conflict in Ukraine, Marco Rubio pulling out of these London talks, President Trump once again attacking Ukraine's president, J.D. Vance essentially presenting the Kremlin's dream of how this war would resolve as America's idea, or at least his idea about what should happen here. I mean, part of what you described in terms of not just America's adversaries, but America's competitors stepping up and taking up some of the space that we used to take up. I wonder if you think that the Europeans and Ukraine's other allies essentially can band together in a strong enough way to supplant the role that we've had. If we're effectively siding with Russia, we're not just getting out of this, we appear to be very much siding with Putin's take in this war. Do you think that Ukraine and its allies will be strong enough to take up that space where we used to be?
It's a great question. Let me start by saying that it's really difficult to bring about a just and durable peace in Ukraine, and I will be the first to acknowledge that. But what is amazing to me, and you kind of pointed this out in your opening comments, is the way that the United States has approached this negotiation is to give Russia formal recognition of Crimea, which is sovereign Ukrainian territory, formal recognition of it as Russian territory. Something, by the way, Rachel, China hasn't even done. China doesn't recognize Crimea as part of Russia, and now Donald Trump is saying he's prepared to do that. To give Russia all of the territory they've illegally invaded and conquered, and to give Russia a promise that Ukraine will never be a part of NATO, and to get what exactly in return? Apparently nothing. I mean, that is not a credible way to go about a negotiation. This is effectively diplomacy by means of full pressure on Ukraine and a series of giveaways to Russia. And down that path does not lie a just and sustainable peace. I do believe the Europeans have had a rude wake-up call, and they are going to express themselves. And Ukraine, of course, will express itself too. But the United States of America has a unique role to play here, and I do hope that before it's too late, this administration changes course in the way that it's approaching these negotiations, but there's no evidence to suggest that they're going to do so.
Jake Sullivan, former National Security Advisor to President Biden. I mentioned at the top that you haven't done very many interviews. I know you spoke with the good folks at the Midas Touch, and you're here tonight. I would just suggest you've had such a long career in public service. right now is a time that I think we need to hear more from you. I hope that you'll speak more with the media and do more interviews, make yourself publicly available. I think the country can really benefit from hearing more from you at this time, particularly when things are so chaotic in the international front. It's a real pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all that you do.
All right, thanks. Stay with us.